Hi, I'm Linda Patterson, and I was born in Ext Ver, where we are sitting today in Ext Ver Church in the middle of the valley. My maiden name was Linda Ruddenclaw, which is a very difficult name to pronounce and worse to spell. I lived here, went to Ext Ver school here, was christened in this church, and my grandparents have been buried in the cemetery just down the road here, so it's a very special place for me. I left the valley, went to Taranaki, and I lived in Taranaki for around 30 years. And on February 22nd, 2011, there was a major earthquake in Christchurch. And I had been civil defence trained, so I was called up to go down there in the civil defence response, asked to go down for 5 days, and ended up living down there for 7 years, working in earthquake recovery. At the end of that time, I had to make a decision. Did I stay? Did I go back to Taranaki, or did I come back home to Hawke's Bay? In the end, I thought this is where my family is, this is where my roots are, and so I decided to come home. And that was the best decision I ever made. There's something quite special about Hawke's Bay, I think, having lived. I mean, you can live anywhere. That's what I've learned. You can make friends and establish yourself anywhere, but there is something quite special about Hawke's Bay, especially the weather, apart from the cyclones.
Returning to our top story, Cyclone Gabrielle is edging closer to New Zealand with heavy rain and strong wind warnings in place from tomorrow for some northern areas.
On February the 13th, we were told that there was a cyclone coming and it was going to be pretty bad, but we have had storms before and flooding before, and so nobody really thought, including the weather people, that it was going to be as bad as it was. At about 20 past 11, the power went off. The wind was starting, but it just got louder and louder. I thought I was going to lose my roof. Of course, the next day there was no power, no communications, no phone. And then all my neighbours started arriving and we all started talking to each other. But because of my experience in Christchurch, I'm a bit paranoid about being prepared. So I had a generator, I had fuel, got toilet paper galore, tissues. And so I was pretty much set up. Problem was my neighbours weren't. So eventually people started getting their own generators and we all just looked out for each other. But we had no idea, I mean, I only live over the hill here. We had no idea that people were trapped in vehicles, on vehicles, in trees, all through the valley, and had experienced the most horrendous night. So we just had no idea that was actually happening.
Cyclone Gabrielle dumped an astonishing amount of water.
Tore a hole in the roof.
It filled the valley so fast, faster than many residents could escape.
And I think most people were in shock. I was in shock. Couldn't believe that this enormous thing had happened. We were flooded in, but I managed to get out and I came down and walked through the mud to the church. And I just sobbed. I sobbed and sobbed. I just could not believe what had happened to our beautiful valley.
So this is Ext Ver Church. It's unbelievable, really. There used to be a hedge and a fence along here, and the gate and the path that went here. And of course all the trees that people planted for a memorial. This is the hall that Mum and Dad helped to build.
And one of the things was, it was amazing that the church was still standing, but we have had a couple of years before, our family had donated a seat to celebrate the church centennial, and it was still sitting there. I had actually said to the guy who installed it, it has flooded here sometimes, so make sure it's installed really solidly.
One incredible thing is that our seat is still standing.
There was an orange cone jammed in it, but it was there, still there, and it's still there. Slightly slumped now, but my niece and her partner, who's a big, strong builder, came and the next day, and he took an hour and a half to dig the silt out from that front door. And my niece and I dug the flagpole out and did a few other things, trying to look as if we were actually helping. And then when we came in, I videoed us opening the door and what we found here. And I put that video up on Facebook. I'm so glad I did it. And I think something like 53,000 people have watched that video of us coming into the church that day.
Cleared the front door, well, sort of. And now he's trying to open the door, and we're now. Oh shit. I don't think we need to take our shoes off. The water's come up to here inside the church. What's that? How high is that, Alec?
It's about 1.5 metres probably.
The organ that Gran used to play. This is the place where so many people have been married, standing right here. So many funeral services and church services. It's an absolutely beautiful church, full of memories.
So I asked about 7 people, and 12 people said they'd come, and 40 people turned up on that day, and they just went for it. Ripped up the carpets, stacked the pews, carried all the rest of the furniture out, swept out all the silt, and basically I think that's what saved a lot of the church.
This is Andy and Alec. Oh, now we've got some more guys in here helping to shift. This is incredible. Sweeping out here. Sorry, thank you so much. And this is the wonderful gang of people who are helping with East Ver Church.
Over the year, we haven't finished. We've got a long way to go, but we have restored this church back to almost how it was. Because of my experience with civil defence and my experience with the earthquakes, and now, of course, with the cyclone, I have always been very prepared for disasters. When they've been doing some of the reviews, we've been having input into, how prepared organisations have been. I think what I've learnt is that while it's nice to have them as a backup, you actually can't rely on somebody to come and rescue you. The 3 fallacies are, first of all, it's not going to happen to me. Secondly, if it does happen to me, it's not going to be that bad. And thirdly, if it is that bad, someone will come and rescue me. And we've learnt from the cyclone that none of those things are true. I mean, 50 years ago, you wouldn't have got a text message telling you to evacuate. We've lost the ability to connect with our neighbours, to have a plan in place so that if there is an earthquake or a tsunami or a fire, that we actually know what we're going to do. We're prepared. We've got our rescue kit in our car. We've got our grab bag at home. We're actually developing a resiliency program in our community at the moment. A big part of that I'm pushing for at the moment is actually to get our community more connected and more prepared individually and as a community, and actually changing the way that the community thinks instead of relying on other people.
And this is just a building, I know, but we still love it, don't we?